There's a moment in the life of a healed empath that almost nobody describes correctly. It's not a moment of victory. It's not a moment of confrontation. It's quieter than that. It's the moment a narcissist runs his usual play on you, the same one that used to flatten you, the same one that used to send you spiraling for 3 days afterward, and you watch him deliver it, and nothing happens inside you. He pauses. He waits for the old reaction. It doesn't come. And just for a second, before he covers it up with charm or rage or pity, you see something flicker across his face that he wasn't supposed to show you. Panic. If you've ever been in that moment, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been in it yet, I want you to hear me. It is coming. And when it arrives, it will not feel the way the internet has trained you to expect. There's a reason narcissists target Sophia Empaths in the first place. Not the loud, glamorous romance novel reason. A specific, mechanical one. Your nervous system was, for a long time, perfectly shaped to absorb what they couldn't carry. Your shame response was bigger than theirs. Your guilt circuitry came pre-installed. You'd take a bullet emotionally before you'd let someone feel rejected. That made you, in their internal economy, an unbelievably efficient power source. They didn't fall in love with you. They plugged in. Carl Jung had a way of describing this kind of dynamic that most pop psychology has flattened beyond recognition. He said that everything we refuse to face inside ourselves, we are doomed to meet outside as fate. The narcissist's whole psychic survival depends on outsourcing his rejected material to someone else. The empath, before she heals, has the dangerous gift of being able to receive it. Then something changes. The empath does the work, quietly, painfully, mostly alone. And the bond that was supposed to hold forever stops holding. Not because she fought harder, because she stopped offering the one thing that made the whole system run. Today, we sit with exactly that. What changes inside a Sophia empath that makes her, almost overnight, structurally impossible to manipulate? Why the narcissist can sense it before she does? And why the people who used to have the most power over you are about to discover, the hard way, that they had it on loan the whole time. Stay close. This one might describe a version of you that's been waiting in the wings. Let's start somewhere uncomfortable. You were useful to them. That's the part nobody wants to look at directly, because it sounds like blame, and it isn't. It's mechanism. Understanding the mechanism is what gets you free. Narcissistic personalities don't bond. They allocate. They scan a room the way a building inspector scans a structure, for load-bearing walls, for places they can lean their weight, for the parts of you that can be counted on to hold. And what they find in a Sophia empath is something close to architectural luck. You don't just listen, you absorb. You take whatever feeling somebody else can't sit with, their failure, their envy, their shame, and you metabolize it inside your own body. You leave the interaction feeling sick, they leave it feeling lighter. Neither of you fully understood what just got transferred. I want you to think about a specific person, maybe a parent, maybe an ex, maybe a friend who was always somehow at the center of the drama. Picture them at the height of their access to you. Notice that the relationship had a particular shape. They were going through a lot. You were the safe place. They needed somewhere to put the worst version of themselves, the cruelty, the failure, the bottomless need, and you were equipped, almost professionally, to receive it. They didn't pay for the receiving. Of course they didn't. Why would you pay for something somebody volunteers to do? Here's where it gets harder. There was a payoff for you. There had to be. The mind doesn't keep running a program that gets nothing back. The payoff wasn't pleasure. It was identity. As long as you were the helper, the listener, the one who could understand someone nobody else can understand, you got to feel necessary. And for a child who learned early that her place in the family system depended on being useful, necessary feels almost like loved. It's not the same thing, but it scratches a similar nerve. Jung wrote, somewhere in the middle of his life, that we don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with the parts of ourselves we projected onto them. The empath in this dynamic has projected something specific. She's projected her own unmet need to be cherished onto somebody who is constitutionally incapable of cherishing. And then she spent years trying to coax that cherishing out of them, interpreting any momentary softness as proof that it's almost here, almost arriving, just one more conversation away. This is the trap of the gifted ones. The more attuned you are, the better you can detect the smallest signs of warmth in someone who is mostly using you, and the longer you can keep yourself convinced that the warmth is the real signal and the rest is just bad days. You can build an entire decade of marriage on 3 good Sundays a year if your perceptual apparatus is wired the way yours is. And then you start to wake up. Usually not in some clean, dramatic moment. Usually it's a slow, embarrassed dawning that happens over months. You read something. A friend says something. You watch the same script run for the 30th time, and on the 31st repetition, the spell breaks. You don't feel the old hook. You feel the floor under it. The floor is this. The relationship was never reciprocal. It was a transaction with shame on one side and absorption on the other. You weren't loved in any meaningful sense. You were used, with affection sometimes, by someone whose own emptiness required a steady supply of you. Most empaths I've sat with on this material flinch here because it sounds harsh. I want to say it gently. The fact that you were used doesn't mean you were stupid. It means you were an enormous-hearted person operating without instructions. Nobody handed you a manual for what to do when somebody who said they loved you was, on some deep structural level, treating you like a battery. You did the best you could with what you had. The work now isn't to punish that earlier version of yourself. The work is to understand what made her plug in so that she doesn't have to plug in again. There is one specific feature of the Sophia Empath that the narcissist depends on more than any other. It's the impulse to look inward when something goes wrong. When the relationship gets tense, you don't ask what's wrong with him. You ask what's wrong with you. This is not a flaw of intelligence, it is a flaw of training. You were trained somewhere to be the inspectable party, to be the one who could always, with enough self-examination, find the source of the problem inside herself. And he learned very early to lean on that, to suggest with 1,000 small cues that you were the issue, to watch you turn the flashlight on your own interior while he quietly walked out the back. When that one feature changes, when you finally stop accepting deliveries of his shame as your own, the entire system loses its load-bearing wall. You weren't loved by him. You were the room he stored what he couldn't carry, and the room finally decided it was a woman. Now here's something they don't want you to know, and I'm going to say it plain. Healing is not what you've been told. It's not glowing up. It's not radiating. It's not becoming a sweeter, more enlightened, more peaceful version of yourself. Those are the marketing materials. The real thing is much weirder and much more useful. Healing, in any sense that actually changes the narcissistic dynamic, is the slow installation of a new operating system underneath your reactions. It happens at a layer most people can't see. From the outside, you might still look like you. You might still be soft. You might still be the person who notices when somebody's struggling. The change is in what your body does the moment someone tries to run the old script on you. Let me describe it concretely. Old you. He criticizes you, mildly, almost in passing, the kind of comment that used to land like an X-ray. You felt it in your stomach. You spent the next hour trying to figure out if he was right. You apologized somewhere in there. You promised to do better. The conversation moved on. You didn't. New you. He says the exact same sentence. You feel something move in your chest. Not absorption, more like data arriving. You hear it. You notice it. You don't apologize. You don't argue either. You say something neutral, or you say nothing, and you go on with your day. He notices. He notices in a way that he is going to find difficult to put into words. He may even bring it up later. Are you okay? You seem different. Yes, you are different. This is what Jung was pointing at when he talked about individuation, but the word has been so overused it's almost lost its meaning. Let me say it in plain English. Individuation is the process of becoming a person who can no longer be slotted neatly into other people's psychological architecture. You stop fitting the holes they shaped you to fit, not out of spite, out of structure. The pieces of you that used to interlock with the narcissist's needs simply aren't shaped that way anymore. And here is where the narcissist meets a problem he is genuinely not equipped to solve, because his entire repertoire of control is built on predictable reactions. He learned over years exactly which buttons produced which behaviors in you. The guilt button, the fear of abandonment button, the I must have done something wrong button, the let me try harder button. He has muscle memory in those buttons. He could hit them in his sleep, and he has. He's hit them so often that he doesn't even register doing it consciously anymore. It's reflexive. What he discovers when the healed empath sits across from him is that the buttons are gone. Not disabled, gone. There's just a wall there now, smooth, quiet, nothing for him to press. For someone whose entire psychic survival depends on emotional control, this is closer to a crisis than to a breakup. He doesn't know how else to be in relationship. Manipulation isn't a thing he does, it is a thing he is. Take it away and there's almost nothing left to talk to. This is why the discard from the narcissist side, when it comes to a healed empath, looks so strange. He'll often try a series of escalating moves in quick succession. Charm first, then anger, then desperation, then cold withdrawal, then a sudden reappearance with grand gestures. He's not being inconsistent, he's running through his playbook. Each move that fails just makes him reach for the next page. And each new failure shows him, more clearly, what he can't yet admit to himself, that the woman he could once reorganize at will is no longer reachable on the channel he's been using. There's a particular sentence that comes out of a lot of these men in this stage. Some version of, "I don't know who you are anymore." It sounds like an accusation. What it actually is, if you listen with the right ear, is an honest report. He really doesn't. Because who you were, to him, was a function, a reliable processor for his emotional waste. That function is decommissioned. The actual person he's now looking at is somebody he was never very interested in. I want to be careful here because I don't want this to sound like triumph. Most empaths I've worked with describe this period not as winning, but as grieving. You're not just losing him, you're losing a version of yourself that you used to be. The eager one, the hopeful one, the one who really did believe deep down that enough love from her would crack him open. She has to die for the new one to live. And that death is not painless, even when you know it had to happen. But here is what nobody told you, and what I want you to absorb. The grief is the proof that the work is real. You wouldn't grieve a hook that was never in you. The grief means the hook is coming out. A narcissist can't control what no longer comes when he calls. Let's get into something subtler. Because the surface story, she stops reacting, he loses power, is true, but it leaves out the deeper layer. The deeper layer is about frequency, about the level at which contact between two people actually happens. Narcissistic personalities operate at a very specific bandwidth. It's not stupid. It's not shallow in the cliché way people mean it. It's narrow. They are exceptionally skilled at the parts of human exchange that involve status, image, performance, transaction. They can read a room for power. They can read a face for weakness. They can deliver a line of warmth so technically convincing you'd swear they meant it, and in some thin sliver they did. What they cannot do, and this is the part most people miss, is meet you in the territory where the real you actually lives. Because that territory requires them to be present with their own interior, and their interior is precisely the country they spent a lifetime fleeing. You, on the other hand, used to live in their bandwidth almost full-time. You met them where they were. You learned to speak their language. You played the roles. You took the cues. You got fluent in their particular emotional currency. That was the only way to stay in contact with them at all. What changes during healing isn't your kindness. It isn't your warmth. It's your address. You move. Quietly, internally, without making an announcement, you move to a different floor of your own psyche, and you start receiving the world from there. Not better, not higher in some hierarchical sense, just somewhere they don't have the keys to. Jung had a phrase for this that I keep coming back to. He talked about the meeting of two personalities being like the contact of two chemical substances. If there's a reaction, both are transformed. The corollary, which he didn't write quite as plainly, is that if one of the substances changes, the reaction can simply stop. There's no more chemistry. There's nothing wrong. There's also nothing happening. Two people are in a room. The old combustion is gone. You'll feel this sometimes in the physical body before you understand it intellectually. He walks into a room. The old you would have felt the air change, a tightening, an alertness, a reorientation of every cell toward his mood. The new you feels almost nothing. He sits down. You hand him a drink. You ask how his day was. You hear his answer. But there is no inner mobilization. There is no scanning his face for clues. There is no checking whether he's pleased. The whole circuit that used to run is quiet. He notices. He notices the way an animal notices the absence of a sound it expected to hear. Something is supposed to be coming from your direction and isn't. This is also when the projections finally land where they belong, on him. As long as you were the receiver, he could lay his shame, his cowardice, his envy on your shoulders and walk free. But the receiver has left the address. The projection, mid-flight, has nowhere to go. It comes back to him. He feels, sometimes for the first time in years, the actual weight of his own interior. It's unbearable to him. He'll try to find a new receiver almost immediately. That isn't your problem. Watch it happen if you must, but don't interfere. Watching is just data. Data is medicine. The thing about a healed Sophia Empath is that she doesn't become harder. She becomes more accurate. She still feels everything. She still senses what people are hiding. The difference is that she no longer believes it's her job to manage what she senses. She lets the people around her have their own inner weather. She watches it. She doesn't try to change it. And she certainly doesn't take on their storms as her own climate. In the older language of the spiritual traditions, this is called discernment. Most people use the word as a synonym for judgment. It isn't. Discernment is the ability to see what's actually in front of you without the distorting overlay of what you'd prefer to see. The empath who reaches it has spent her life seeing with one eye open. Both eyes finally open is what makes her ungovernable. Not because she's cruel, because she's no longer available to be deceived. There's a moment that will come, often in some ordinary setting, across a kitchen counter, in a car, mid-text, when you'll watch a narcissist run a move that used to work, and you'll see with absolute clarity that you are watching a man perform. Not feel, perform. And the part of you that used to mistake the performance for feeling, she's not at the controls anymore. She's there. She's part of you. She's just been gently retired from a job she should never have had to do. He can't reach the frequency you live on now because the frequency he uses is the one you stopped paying rent on. So now we have to talk about the accusation, because it will come. It always comes. And if you don't know in advance how it lands, it can knock you off your axis. He will, at some point, say some version of the following. You've changed. You've gotten cold. You're not the person I married. You used to be so loving. You used to care. He may say it angrily or tearfully, or with that strange, dispassionate voice they use when they're really trying to twist the knife clean. He may bring in mutual friends. He may say it to your family. He may post about it. The exact form doesn't matter. The accusation is always the same. You are too hard now. You have lost your softness. You have become someone he doesn't recognize. And the empath in you, because she is still her, will feel it. There's no skipping that step. You feel the accusation hit somewhere in your sternum. You wonder briefly if it's true. You think about all the warmth you used to pour into him, and you wonder if maybe you really have hardened. Stay with me, because this is the most important pivot in the whole process. What he is calling cold is, in fact, the precise temperature at which a human being can love another human being without dissolving. You weren't warm before. You were on fire. There's a difference. He liked the fire because he was freezing and you provided his heat. He never had to find his own. Now you've stopped lighting yourself to warm him, and to a man who has spent years standing close to your flame, the absence of self-immolation feels exactly like coldness. It isn't. Jung had a piece of writing about love that has always stayed with me. He said, where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, there love is lacking. He wasn't being metaphorical. He was describing the actual atmospheric pressure inside relationships. The narcissistic dynamic is, structurally, a will-to-power dynamic dressed up in love's clothing. The healed empath has stopped supplying the disguise. What remains is the bare structure underneath, and what the narcissist mistakes for your hardness is simply the absence of the costume you use to put on the whole thing for him. I want you to sit with that for a second, because the gaslighting on this point is intense. He'll have allies. He'll have a version of the story in which you abandoned him, in which you became someone he didn't recognize, in which your therapy or your spirituality or your female friends got to you. Some of those allies will be people you love. Some of them will be people in your own family. The pressure to apologize for not being on fire anymore will be considerable. You will not apologize. You don't need to argue either. The truth doesn't need a debate team. It just needs witnesses, and you will be your own. You know, somewhere underneath all the noise, that the warmth that used to pour out of you in his direction wasn't only love. It was also fear. Fear that if you turned the flame down, he'd leave. Fear that if you stopped working that hard, you wouldn't be worth keeping. The flame was real, but it wasn't all chosen. Some of it was paid in dread. The new warmth, and this is the part that takes time to feel, is steadier but smaller toward him. It's not because you've become withholding, it's because you've started spending the same energy elsewhere, on your own work, on friends who reciprocate, on the people who looked at you years ago and saw the real you and have been patient ever since. On yourself, finally. The fire isn't out, it's just no longer aimed at a man who treats heat as a renewable resource. He'll grieve. Some narcissists grieve loudly, some grieve quietly, some skip grief entirely and go shopping for a replacement within the month. None of those reactions are your responsibility. The mistake here is to think that because he's hurting, you've done something wrong. He's hurting because a supply he relied on has stopped flowing. That's the price of the kind of relationship he chose to build. It's not the price of the kind of woman you've decided to be. The deepest paradox of the healed Sophia Empath is this. She becomes more loving than she ever was, toward herself, toward the people who actually meet her, toward strangers, toward life. And the only person in her field who experiences her as colder is the one who built his whole climate on her warmth. To him, she has changed. To everyone else who has ever truly known her, she has finally arrived. The man calling you cold is the only one in the room standing in the shadow you stopped casting for him. I want you to picture something before we end. Picture a long hallway in a house you used to live in. At the far end is the version of you who first walked into the relationship, younger, hopeful, already a little tired but still believing the next round of effort would do it. She's not gone. She's still in you. She's just no longer the one answering the door. The one who answers now stands a little differently. She's slower to react. She's quicker to recognize. She doesn't volunteer information she used to volunteer. She doesn't audition. She has, finally, stopped explaining herself to people who were never listening. This isn't a personality transplant. It's the original you. The one underneath the conditioning. The one who, at 5 years old, knew exactly which adult in the room was unsafe before anyone else had figured it out. That girl is back at the wheel. She's older now. She's read some Jung. She's done some crying. She's lost some people who needed her to stay foggy in order to keep using her. And she has finally accepted, after a long time of pretending otherwise, that you can't be loved by someone whose whole orientation is to extract rather than meet. I'm not going to tell you the road from here is simple. There will be relapses. There will be days when an old text from him cracks the floor under you for an afternoon. There will be moments when you miss him so violently that you wonder if you imagined the whole thing. You didn't. The missing is normal. The missing isn't evidence. Memory always sands off the worst corners. That's what it's for. Your job is not to trust your missing. Your job is to trust the part of you that did the work, slowly, in private, with very little praise, while everyone around you wondered why you were so quiet lately. You weren't quiet, you were forging. If anything in this conversation reached the part of you that needed to hear it, I'm glad you stayed. This channel is a slow walk through the Jungian terrain, shadow work, individuation, what it really takes to become unavailable to the people who used to feed on you. If that's the kind of walk you want to keep taking, you can subscribe, and the next one will find you when it's ready. But before you go anywhere, close this for a minute. Don't reach for the phone. Don't text anyone. Sit in your own company. Notice that the woman who heard everything I just said is also the woman who could have heard none of it 5 years ago. And the difference between those two women is not luck. It's not grace falling on the lucky. It is, very specifically, the result of you not giving up on yourself when nobody was clapping. He cannot control you because the one he learned to control no longer lives at this address. She's left town. The one in her place was never for sale. Take care of yourself out there.